Dear audiences, this is Shohag Mustafiz. I'm super excited and thrilled, delighted to have two wonderful persons joining me today. And welcome to this very special episode. We are paying tribute to Oxfam's Golden Jubilee. They are celebrating their 50 years presence in country. And without further ado, please allow me to introduce my wonderful guest today. Joining me, Mr. Ashish Damle. He's the current country director of Oxfam in Bangladesh. And also the legendary Mr. Julian Francis, one of the foremost country representatives of Oxfam in Bangladesh. Welcome to you both to our special program. Hello.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Salam everyone. Namaskar. And I hope everyone is doing well.
Excellent. Right. Julian Bhai, I like your colorful dress. Is there any reason, like today, you have put on this?
Well, I have a number of red and one or two green, and they are mostly for Victory Day or Independence Day. And I was trying to work out what to wear when I go on a talk show recording this afternoon. So then I decided to. So I had all the things out of my cupboard, and so this is the one I decided to use today.
Fascinating. Well, Ashish Bhai, obviously, since we are in solidarity of your wonderful event, upcoming event, you are celebrating 50 years presence in Bangladesh, which is going to be held on 10th May. Please bear with us. Today we'll be asking a lot of questions. We'll try to learn about some of the aspects that will be shortly touching base. But it's obviously very exciting that you are going to do it. So Ashish Bhai, please, why don't you tell us the story behind Oxfam's presence for the last 50 years, and what kind of excitements you are anticipating going forward. So if you can give us a bit of idea about it, shed a light on it.
Thank you, Mustafiz. So Oxfam is commonly being perceived as one of the biggest humanitarian agencies in the world and providing support to humanitarian crisis as an aid agency. But the real identity of Oxfam is far more beyond just a humanitarian aid agency. In case of Bangladesh, Oxfam been started. Yes, it was started in 1970 when the cyclone had happened, and it first came as any other organization like humanitarian aid support organization. But soon, when the liberation was started and millions of Bangladeshi refugees, took shelter in India at that point in time, and Julian is the eyewitness. It has been part of that mission, so more will come from him. But the connect with the Bangladeshi community actually started from that intervention. And that connection is more emotional than just as a pure aid agency. And later on, Oxfam played significant role in strengthening the civil society culture within Bangladesh. It's been part of a lot of nation building exercises, whether it is about policy intervention, policy influencing, bringing the entire agenda of women empowerment at the forefront of the discourse. I think Oxfam has always been at the lead on all of these crucial issues, and it has been continuing that work throughout. But more than all of these interventions, the connection that is behind all of this is the relationship between Oxfam and the people of Bangladesh. It's more of an emotional connect. Oxfam, as you know, along with Julian Bhai as well, has been awarded as the Friends of Liberation War is an organization. And we have been firmly standing all throughout in solidarity with the people of Bangladesh. So this particular event of celebrating Golden Jubilee of 50 years is just not a birthday. It's not just an anniversary. It is basically to celebrate that solidarity and to bring that back, because now in the current times, we need it more than ever. When inflation is going high, when the world is going through a crisis, having its impact on it, Bangladesh is one of the top climate vulnerable countries. I think the organizations like Oxfam's must show this solidarity beyond the conventional commitment that we have, and I think we treat this as the new beginning of the new era.
Thank you. It's very inspiring. You said this is the beginning of a new era. We have also Julian Bhai with us. As we said at the outset, he was one of the first country representatives. Julian Bhai, would you like to add to what Mr. Ashish Damle has already shared?
Yes, I think he described the situation very well, and of course Yes, Oxfam was always in its early days regarded as a relief organization, particularly responding to disasters in different parts of the world. And I think as far as Bangladesh is concerned, Oxfam could have carried on being a relief organization, but there was far-sighted people, particularly the first country director here, who had Bangladesh experience from the 1950s and 60s. He told Oxfam after Victory Day in 1971 that if he was going to be Oxfam's representative here, he didn't want to be involved with relief activities. He wanted to use Oxfam's money to support young Bangladeshis with vision. So he was already thinking about long-term development. So that is how the funding, the relief supplies, yes, there were some given to two organizations like CARE and Caritas, but the big organizations we know of now, BRAC and Dona Shasta Kendra, they were started with Oxfam grants and significant grants in those days. I don't know what the annual income now of Oxfam Great Britain is, but in those days it was about £3.5 million, and so to be giving grants to any organisation of £200,000 was quite a big amount at that time, and so it was with the vision that got the long-term development going, and I think it's worth mentioning in March 1972, when the head of Oxfam's overseas aid program visited Bangladesh. In his report, he was echoing the opinions and fears of senior UN officials that he had been meeting in Bangladesh, that unless food supplies were ensured, meaning imported food supplies, and the communications restored quickly, they doubted if Bangladesh could survive as a nation state. Well, that painted a pretty grim picture in those days. So the whole development has been remarkable, and definitely Oxfam has been a part of that. And it was only in the mid 1970s when Oxfam used a particularly strong slogan to support Food for Tomorrow projects, trying to tell the donors, as well as telling the supporters, the governments involved with Oxfam, that they wanted to get more involved in long-term development rather than relief. So that was particularly key at that time.
Right. Thank you. So, Asif Bhai, you have mentioned that, and also Julian Bhai has touched base. Oxfam started in the early 70s in Bangladesh, and you have definitely significantly supported a number of organizations, especially local NGOs, to start. And having said that, particularly two names, BRAC and Ganushastra Kendra, these are like two legendary organizations in Bangladesh, and people pay massive tribute to their contribution and the leadership they have shown, especially Sir Abed and the late Jafarullah Chaudhry. And I take pride, even as an individual who happened to work for Oxfam, and Oxfam contributed in the development or even to the history, the early days of those two organizations. And so this is fascinating. And in addition to that, the commitment that Oxfam has towards community development, right? And Asif Bhai, if you can shed a bit of light on this particular aspect, like what changes Oxfam has made to the community since it started its operation in the early 70s so far on a broad scale, and give us a bit of reflection on that. And Julian Bhai, please feel free to add to that.
Yeah, so thank you. I think this impact, if we need to assess based on the all the documentation that is at our disposal, it is at two folds. One is the people who work for the communities. So Oxfam invested a lot in terms of Oxfam fellowships, the social reformers who at that time coming with just an idea. These were individuals. A new country was born in 71. They wanted to do something great, and but of course they were not equipped with any of the infrastructure requirements or any of the capacities, technicalities. They had just ideas, and I think Oxfam trusted them and invested in those ideas. That's, I think, the first thing that perhaps Oxfam can be distinguished than many others. There have been quite number of incidences where actually Oxfam money was used, even registered the organizations. The organizations came later, and the resource came first. The other part is in terms of the direct community impact, that what exactly has changed. So to begin with, when Oxfam started, and Julian has this absolutely powerful story of listening to people, listening to the state, and then the very first intervention of Oxfam was perhaps those 3 ferries and many other ferries that Oxfam had actually repaired, and that was not the domain where Oxfam was expert. But why did we do that? Because at that point in time, that was the need of an hour, and Oxfam listened to what was needed. So time and time, Oxfam has actually gone back to the communities, listened to them, and then developed these interventions, with people. So one is this whole aspects of community mobilization, whether it is related to the, gender equity, the women empowerment, bringing women into the mainstream of the, workforce. A lot has happened. I'm not going to claim that, we have achieved everything and everything is hunky-dory, not at all. But I think if I have to put Oxfam, it has definitely one of the significant catalysts in the process of nation building and getting all sorts of communities and their issues on the forefront of the policy making, as well as the humanitarian responses, and time to time in different occasions when Bangladesh had actually met with different disasters. So that's, I think, and Julian can add maybe very specifically.
Yeah, I think particular contribution in the whole area of disaster preparedness, and that has always been very, very remarkable. And even Oxfam project partners 25 years ago were talking to me. At that time, I was with the Red Cross. They weren't using, and we weren't using the slogan climate change, but definitely global warming or sea level rises. And so people were not listening as much as they should have been then. But other interventions, particularly Oxfam were involved with, related to all the issues around land ownership and land reform and what to do with government land and so on. And Oxfam supported some NGOs that did a lot of work on that. And so those two, sort of the disaster preparedness and the land reform, in fact, the 2 members of staff who were leading those, when they left Oxfam, they set up organizations, the Disaster Forum in one, and the Association for Land Reform and Development. And both those organizations are still very valuable support to other NGOs. So and they have very good connections with government ministries, which is also very important.
Thank you. Absolutely. And would you mind sharing a little bit about the recognition that you received from the government of Bangladesh because of Oxfam's contribution? And we know that Julian Tai, you also received this accolade called Friend of Liberation Award. So,
the idea to honor foreigners or foreign organizations that had helped in the liberation wartime, the first idea was talked about in when the Awami League government were in power in the 1990s, but it didn't get organized then. So when they came back, they revived the idea, and and it was quite remarkable, the research work that they had done, and then the cross-checking and in many cases visiting either directly or through their high commissions or embassies, visiting and checking out the names. And so in fact the first honor went to Indira Gandhi, but then after that the first batch was in March 2012, and that's when Oxfam and myself, but other people were honoured, and it was a remarkable experience, and very, very moving to be. We were actually at the monument in Shava on the early morning of March the 26th that year, and it was very emotional to be there, it was remarkably well organized, and everybody's statements were made. Of course, most of the awardees, the individual awardees, the awards were being given posthumously, so children of the awardees or the widows or like that representatives were here, and it was, I think there were 4 or 5 batches altogether, but they are still planning some more, and even the Prime Minister on her recent visit to Japan honoured 4 Japanese people who had been identified.
Thank you. And Ashish bhai, how does it feel when you are leading a country office which has literally received one of the most prestigious recognitions from the government of Bangladesh for its wonderful contribution? And do you feel pressure, or do you feel excited?
A good pressure, if I have to accept that, because honestly speaking, it's a matter of an honor. It's very rare that the particular country office in that sense is being awarded, and but that, honestly speaking, just to put the record straight, this award is only because people like Julian, who have extraordinarily demonstrated the commitment of the organization. Eventually, it is the people who basically define what the character of the organization. They are the face of the organization. So in 1971, what Julian and his team had done, actually the whole Oxfam in that sense for this particular award will always remain in debt with him and his team of that time. And that consciousness has always to be there. But when you are being awarded, and when we see that award in the office every day, and when you were referring to the pressure, it is mostly mainly to be connected with the inspiration that our the former teams have left for us in legacy, and to then to remain all the time competent, all the time connected with that, and all the time to see that how are we going to do more effectively for the people of Bangladesh. So that commitment strengthens every time you see that nice award on the display. So I think that's a great feeling, honestly speaking.
I was going to add that what the reason the honours came in our direction, it was really the way that because we some of us who were sort of looking after the program had already been in India for some time. We didn't just fly in for that disaster, and we had very good connections, particularly with the Gandhi Peace Foundation, and we were able to, with the people who worked for us and with us, in the 9 months of work, there were never more than 3 expatriates involved in a program which covered 600,000 Bangladeshis. And so that was recognized as being quite remarkable, because I for instance, in Calcutta had a staff of 36, and 34 were Bangladeshis who had come over as refugees, or or Indians. So it was quite a very, very different type of organization compared to the other international bodies that were there.
Thank you, Julian, for sharing that. Well, Ashish bhai, I wanted to share this personal feeling. Like when I used to work for Oxfam, I had the privilege of seeing that crest given from the government of Bangladesh as a recognition during the liberation war. I think this is phenomenal. It's really a confidence booster. Thank you. So, Ashish bhai, while celebrating 50 years presence in country, at this point in time, what are your current priorities and vision for Bangladesh?
It's a very interesting question. So, as you know, that Oxfam works in the four defined portfolios, naming as gender justice, economic justice, climate justice, and humanitarian response. But how are we going to now work around it? So Oxfam has very recently updated its own country strategy. The key priorities for coming days and future is that to connect with the more people. So Oxfam is going to start some more investments in innovations, localization, local people. For example, again, reviving the Oxfam Fellowship Program. We are also trying to create more incubations for local enterprising. We are also seeing the technological development and the whole digital Bangladesh movement and its impact on the people and how it can then be strengthened further. We are also working on certain policy catharsis in a new context of geopolitics and, how Bangladesh's damage and loss agenda can be, substantiated with solid research. So there are a lot of things that Oxfam is being planning in this. But if I have to put all that into a nutshell, when you are in an unconventional circumstances, the conventional means do not come. So you'll have to adapt, you have to learn, you have to grow, you have to become, a new way of doing things. So major learning and lessons that we have formed in the past many years are now going to put onto the use and to see that how organization can be very strong, lean and thin and agile in terms of creating more impact with lesser resources, and also to see how we can be collaborative. We have been competitive, in some time in middle, but what we have learned that in the current context, unless we are collaborative, unless we take different kinds of stakeholders along with us together and form a collective agenda and then pursue it together, I think it's going to be very difficult to achieve any success or any change, in the new complex scenarios around us. So we are also working around developing new strategies, investing on the leadership, development space in Bangladesh has enjoyed fantastic leadership in say a couple of decades ago, whether it is Sir Fazal Abed or whether it is Muhammad Yusuf or so many. I mean, if you can take the names, it will be Dr. Zafrullah. But then now what? How the new generation is looking at this entire development space. Is it just a development space for any other career, or it's going to be distinguished? It's going to be different. What was so motivating for these people who had started their journey without any resources, and then they created these huge interventions, whether it is in the form of BRAC or Grameen or many others to name for. But then now, what are we going to give it to the new generation? So it's very important to invest in that leadership aspect also, and Oxfam perhaps is also trying to create some sort of a space where young talent, young people, young leaders will be able to explore more. So yeah, that's what we are basically looking
Excellent.
at.
Well, thank you. If I ask you specifically, Ashish bhai, given the Bangladesh development challenges, pressing challenges, for instance, poverty, inequality, climate change, what role do you see Oxfam play or Oxfam has going forward?
Yeah, I mean, see, the first thing is to understand that every country context is very different. So Bangladesh's context is also different in that sense. So when we make this comparative analysis, many times we jump upon to conclusions too early and too quickly. So what is important for Oxfam in Bangladesh is to remain closer to the context, and while doing that, of course, in Bangladesh is in that whole age of graduating from LDC to the middle income country. It is supposed to happen in 2026, but even if it is not in 2026, maybe another year or two. And when that happens, that has its own advantages and disadvantages. The advantages is, of course, you have more investment, foreign direct investment, more boost to the economy, more trust into the private sector enterprising, more systems in place, maybe little advanced in terms of technology and digitalization. The disadvantage is, of course, the entire dependence that Bangladesh has been having over these years on the aid part, the humanitarian part, which will drastically reduce. The aid will not be easily available. The aid money will not be easily available. So we'll have to come up with the interventions where Bangladesh's own money can be put into the use. And when you do that transition, it's very important to understand that how are we going to make it more convincing to the country's needs? What is the policy framework that we are trying to adopt, in which the issues related to the gap between the rich and poor, the issues related to internally displaced people, the issues related to the loss of land and loss of agriculture and food insecurities. So these are the crucial issues that perhaps Oxfam will have to then take on the forefront and work on both the policy framework, making it agile, strengthen it, and also then to work with the Bangladesh's local enterprise, Bangladesh's private sector, the academia, think tanks, and of course the government as well.
Right, thank you. And Ashish Bhai, today we are not going into deeper anymore. All those programmatic discussions or your strategic priorities, you have already given us a heads up. It's wonderful to hear. We don't want to lose track of our key focus. This is a humble initiative from Abunx. This is a research and business consultancy. Our humble tribute to Oxfam for his glorious presence, all the great work that Oxfam has done, and wonderful leadership that you have been actually demonstrating, and the others, those who have done in the past. We are very grateful and thankful to Oxfam for its phenomenal work in Bangladesh, and we also want to be a part of this wonderful celebration that you have actually scheduled on 10th of May, in addition to all the work that you are doing. Today, we have a special guest who will be joining very shortly, and we'll ask her. I better, if you allow me, shall I bring her on the screen?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, right. So here comes Erika Shubrahalda. Hi, Erika, can you hear us?
Hi, Shohag. Yeah, definitely. Good morning to you all. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Well.
Hello, Erika.
Yeah.
Glad to meet you all virtually.
Excellent. So the reason we actually wanted to give you this special surprise, because Erika, she used to work for Oxfam as well, and this is like a Oxfam fraternity community. What do you say? Like whatever.
Indeed.
And Erika is a part of, she works for Abunx. As I said, this is a research and business consultancy. We believe there is no scarcity of resources on the planet Earth. Sometimes we don't know how to tap into those resources. But if we embrace a mindset of abundance, I think, for instance, we may not have all the answers or expertise, but if we work with private sector companies, if we bring on our respective expertise on the table, then we can leverage and we can collectively achieve our purpose. It's more of like, creating a synergy and taking the best of limited resources by working together. And I believe which resonates with your mission of addressing, inequality, fighting poverty, and we want to be an instrument of service. So without further ado, Erika, how does it feel being an Oxfamer, and as Ashish Bhai and the team is celebrating their 50 years glorious presence in Bangladesh?
Yeah, thank you, Mustafiz and Abunx team, for giving me this little opportunity to speak on Oxfam's glorious journey. So absolutely, I feel really privileged, and it's I think that all of the Oxfam family will echo with me that the journey of Oxfam since 1971 in Bangladesh, and the global movement of Oxfam's different innovative mechanisms are actually appreciated by worldwide. So the population here in Bangladesh who work for Oxfam, who work with Oxfam, and who work in collaboration with Oxfam, I always feel that they will nourish the experiences in their lifetime. And I would highlight that it's a lifetime experience if you once work with Oxfam. Because I remember when I joined Oxfam back in 2013, I joined as the Economic Empowerment Program Officer in the Private Sector Engagement team. So I immediately, on my second day, my line manager was saying I felt really appreciated. Like he was saying, you first take things slowly. But I was like, oh no, I can get into things, in a deep, no problem. So then I started working with Oxfam global team in a program development. So that was really exciting when I was working, immediately the dairy project development team, along with other Oxfam from the other side team members, and then, engaging into the COP, resilience tool, vulnerability risk assessment tool analysis in the south region of Bangladesh. And I represented the Oxfam Bangladesh team in Philippines. So that was obviously, for program officer level, I would highlight again that the senior management of Oxfam at that moment was really, motivating other, youngsters of Oxfam. So I really always remember how Oxfam always, initiated innovative tools also and innovative mechanisms, collaboration with private sectors. I was working in Oxfam with different kind of multiple diversified stakeholders. I would say the Meso Index-based flood insurance model that we worked, Oxfam Global's, that was the first Meso Index-based, flood insurance project ever taken. So I still remember I was feeling very proud, and I always appreciated Oxfam this kind of innovative initiative in research, in technology transfers from other countries. So it gave me a much big leverage in that stage, to grow further. And I would not take most of the valuable time of yours because I can't stop about talking about Oxfam. So I would love to highlight another thing, that while working in Oxfam's enterprise development program, the investor came and they actually gave us some insights to give some analysis on. And that time it was the time when I was actually inspired for my another higher education in the US. So I would say Oxfam's journey actually, gave me the avenue to grow more and to take risk in life. I would say that I still remember in Oxfam, my line manager said, "Oh, you can go along to the field." First I was hesitating that, oh no, in South area I never traveled. But later on I took the challenge. That, oh yeah, I think I can do it. So this gave me a lifetime leverage and confidence, and to handle the multiple stakeholders and to organize roundtable policy dialogues and also policy lobbying from Oxfam side for the chili producer of Gaibandha. So I would say my tenure is not very big with Oxfam, but it was very, very insightful, and I would cherish the whole journey in my life. And as I said, I have a beautiful fraternity of ex-Spam family members whom we always met. We cherish our journey together. We think for Oxfam. We love Oxfam's movement. So we wish all the best for Oxfam's journey ahead. And we are always there. So yeah, thanks to Mustafiz once again to give this wonderful appreciation and, echo with the momentum for the Jubilee. So thank you all for allowing me to speak a bit.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I would just like to add like this. I'm just taking this moment as an opportunity as well. Since
please, Ashish.
Ex-famers, as we say, for ex-Oxfam colleagues. So maybe whoever is watching and will end up watching this as a podcast from the ex-Oxfam fraternity. Oxfam has always been the organization that even our website, we say it's a people's movement against poverty. And no movement can stand on its own without, solidarity, without people associated with it. It's been some time that we have not had any specific programs, but we are now gearing up to have a very robust platform, online platform, where all the ex-Oxfam fraternity can collaborate, can connect, can add value to what Oxfam has been doing, and we can organize certain, even face-to-face events where we can have opportunities to meet and greet, to each other. This connection is really very important to take this movement forward. So that's the message, and maybe if there are any ideas from that community, how to take this vision forward, how to give a shape to it, I think I'll be very happy to have any suggestions coming from anyone on this.
Fascinating. Thank you so much. Erica, are you still there? Okay, I think she left. Right. What Erica said, Ashish Bhai, I'm sure it resonates with many of the ex-Oxfam, or Oxfam, or former Oxfamers. And we just wanted to show you that how probably colleagues have been thinking of this upcoming event.
Yeah.
And they are expressing their solidarity, and we have all the best wishes for you as well. And please don't hesitate to let us know if we can be of any instrument of service for you. Well, Ashish Bhai, since we are just 4 days away from your big moment, one of the greatest celebrations in country, do you have any message for the development partners, CSO or national, local NGOs, or for any particular stakeholder or people in general?
I'm too little and too young to give any message to anybody. Perhaps that's the domain for Julian Bhai. But on behalf of Oxfam, I think what I would like to communicate, to say, is that the organization, in the journey of 50 years, it's a long span, always goes on ups and downs. It's not the same journey, it's not the same thing, it's not only the growing path. We have made mistakes, we have learned from it. In this whole journey, thousands of people we have come into contact with. Some of them have worked with us, some of them have been partnered with us, some of them have been part of our communities. And in that whole process, it is possible that some of the people perhaps being heard, some of the people have not been listened to, some of the people might have received some wrong messages or wrong misunderstanding. But I think at some point in time we have to do that exercise of offloading our baggage ourselves. We at Oxfam are doing that. We are coming out of fresh. It's like taking a rebirth. We are not 50-year-old, we are just 50-year young organization, and we think that we need to become more young and younger and younger. So that is what we are going to do. And my request is to all the people, including our ex-farmers, including our former staff and partners, let's talk. Let's not keep any grievances to ourselves. Let's talk, let's communicate, because as I said, in times to come, we cannot exist in isolation. We'll have to be together to make the difference. And if we have to do that, let's clean our hearts. So that's the message from Oxfam, if I put it that way.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Julian Tai, would you like to add to that?
No, that's absolutely wonderful. I think that when I've been asked, what have you learnt over the years, and I always said, and Mustafiz has heard me saying, the importance of listening. Even if you think you are an expert coming in with a solution to a problem, well, for goodness sake, listen to the people you think you can help. What do they actually feel they could benefit from? What do they need? And that's something that I learned a long time ago, before 1971. But it's also something that was particularly strong with both Abed and Zafrullah, of the two organizations we've mentioned. And one of the key things with BRAC is how they set up very early a research and development section, or research and evaluation, and they actually published their lessons learned, or the mistakes they made, so that it would benefit other people. And in 30 years ago, people in the government would regard an organization like BRAC, BRAC is a bit of an alternative government there, but then everything changed, so that if you read the current 5-year plan, you will see many sections where the government are saying, we are working with BRAC on, it might be TB eradication. So there is a much closer connection. And in the old days, when I used to visit projects on behalf of Oxfam, well, I would say, and what do you do with the local government, or the Upazila nearby officer? Oh no, we don't work with the government. I mean, they're useless. Well, then I would say something that they didn't like. Well, actually, you have to recognize that the government is the biggest development organization in the country. So I think it's quite a good idea if you do find ways of collaborating. So the attitude of NGOs has changed, and that is very right. And now, of course, everything is different, as Ashish was saying before, and you're looking for collaboration with corporate partners as well as government. So and joining hands, and that's very different to the Oxfam of 50 years ago.
Great, thank you. Certainly, the landscape has changed to a large extent, and Oxfam is always known to be an organization which is very adaptive, agile, and flexible, which you have remarkably mentioned as well. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time. And I know, Ashish Bhai, you are extremely busy coordinating with so many things, but it's a pleasure and honor to have you both, Julian Bhai, the first country representative, and the current country representative, Mr. Ashish Damle, and Abunx has made that little effort to bridge the gap. I shouldn't have said gap, the distance, through love. And
yes.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. So before we conclude this session, any other final word you want to share, Julian Bhai or Ashish Bhai?
I was just going to say that, in fact, I will be talking about Oxfam again this afternoon. I'm being interviewed by BD News 24, their talk show, Inside Out, which I think will be broadcast on Sunday, but I'm not quite sure. I'll find out the time. But that is going to be me talking about Oxfam's history, but also Bangladesh's history. So this has been quite a good trial run.
Thank you.
Fascinating.
And thank you, Mustafiz Bhai. Thank you for bringing us together. And I've always cherished these kind of conversations, and I hope to have more in the coming future.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody, and all the best. And hope to see you soon.
And hope to see you on the 10th, and all the
Bye.
audience. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Okay. See you. Bye bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.